With Stand By Me, Rob Reiner made a coming-of-age story that captured the feeling of when childhood fears become adult fears, but also helped the audience to remember how we can face those fears. We're talking all about it this week in Kaden's Movie Club. Spoilers ahead, so if you haven't seen it, beat it. The story starts with Gordy LaChance, a writer who's just found out that a friend from childhood has passed away. Because of this, a specific childhood memory comes back to his mind, and this is the story we follow. Back in 1959, when Gordy was 12 years old, he and his friends decided to take a journey. Gordy, Chris, and Teddy are hanging out in their treehouse when Vern shows up and asks the question that starts everything.
You guys want to go see a dead body?
Vern was eavesdropping on his older brother when he heard that the brother and his friend had discovered the body of a missing boy near the train tracks outside of town. They decided not to report it because at the time they were stealing a car and feared that any police investigation might expose them. So Vern goes to his friends and asks the question. They all decide that if they discover the body, they would probably get their names in the paper, maybe even be on TV.
I bet you anything that if we find him, we'll get our pictures in the paper. Yeah, we can even be on TV. Sure, we'll be heroes.
Now, the thing that's really interesting about this journey is that it's not just a literal journey. The experiences they have also function as a journey from childhood to adulthood. The physical dangers they encounter are usually tied to their childlike antics, but because of these experiences, it results in the kids facing more internal fears they have, which brings them closer to adulthood. For example, one of the first stops is the junkyard. The whole reason they're stopping is because they forgot to pack food and water, but Vern made sure to bring a comb.
I brought a comb.
What do we need a comb for?
Well, if we get on TV, we want to look good, don't we?
A lot of thinking, Vern.
Thanks.
It's funny, and it makes sure the audience remembers these really are just 12-year-old kids. Gordy takes their combined money and gets some snacks, but when he returns, the others are already hopping the fence. This is because the junkyard owner and his infamous terrifying dog, Chopper, have caught the kids. Gordy runs, thinking he's going to be attacked by a giant dog that kids' stories have made into legend.
Chopper was my first lesson in the vast difference between myth and reality.
Now, if the scene ended here, it would serve as a funny reminder that childhood imagination is always bigger than reality. But the scene continues.
Stop teasing that dog, you hear me? Stop teasing him! I know who you are. You're Teddy Duchamp. Your dad's a loony up in the nut house in Togus. He took your ear and he put it to a stove and he burnt it off.
My father stormed the beach in Normandy.
Everyone in town knows that Teddy's dad is mentally ill and has been taken to an institution.
No wonder you're acting the way you are, with a loony for a father.
So what starts as a typical childhood moment then morphs into something that causes them to consider more mature fears. Teddy starts to cry, and I imagine he's having to grapple with questions like, what is my reputation? How will my father's actions affect my life? Was he a good man or not? What does that make me? His friends try to comfort him, but it doesn't change the fact that the experience ripped away some of his childhood innocence. And this pattern keeps happening throughout the movie. The kids will encounter dangerous situations that are the result of kids being kids, but then they're forced to grapple with the difficulties and fears that come when you grow up. When the kids decide to cross train tracks on a bridge, they don't seem to fully appreciate just how dangerous it is, but they learn really quick. Right after this, you'd think Gordy would be appreciating the fact that he's alive, but he's not. He's feeling insecure about his passion for writing.
I don't want to be a writer. It's stupid. It's a stupid waste of time. That's your dad talking.
We go from physical danger as a result of childish thinking to a more existential fear. But right with that pattern each time is that there's always a friend to help provide support. And there's one scene in particular where our main character, Gordy, who is narrating this whole story, processes a lot of the fear he has. Once they find the body, the stark reality of life hits Gordy and he links all of his different fears and anxieties together. The body reminds him of his own brother that died recently. He loved his brother, but he also knew that his father loved his brother more than him.
It should have been me.
Don't say that, man.
Dad said it. I'm no good.
He doesn't know you.
He hates me. I'm no good.
According to Rob Reiner, our director, this scene felt autobiographical to him. Rob's own father was Carl Reiner, a famous actor, writer, director, and comedian that had a long career in Hollywood.
Your father didn't get you.
No, not when I was little. That's a scene I wrote in a hotel room in Oregon, and as I'm writing this scene, I'm crying. I actually crying. When I was making it, I knew that he loved me, and he did understand me, but as a little boy, that's what I felt.
This is our first glimpse into what made Rob Reiner a great storyteller. This was not Rob's original story. Stand By Me is adapted from a novella by Stephen King. But when he chose to direct the movie, he made sure that his unique personal perspective would be an element in the story. He made sure that the movie's emotional core was something that he could authentically portray because he had felt it. And by doing so, he provided a story that could potentially help others process some of their own fears and anxieties that were born in childhood and carried into adulthood. Despite the fact that it's set in the 50s, I think Stand By Me conveys the relatable feeling of being a kid. And then that moment where the realities of life start to pull you away from being a kid. Your fears about monsters under the bed start to fade and they're replaced by deeper ideas. The kids in the story want to see the dead body at first in the same way they'd want to see a dead animal. But when they get there, they're forced to consider how fragile life is, that the good times don't last forever, and that people who mean the world to us come and go in life. And this sounds like a terrible experience, but here's the most important part. All of those grown-up fears are overridden when Gordy realizes that just because something is fleeting doesn't make it any less valuable. His friendship with Teddy and Vern faded when they went to junior high. He and Chris remained friends for longer, but when Gordy finds out that Chris has passed away, it's been 10 years since he last saw him. But it doesn't mean that those relationships and what those boys experienced together wasn't important or special. It changed who Gordy was as a person, for the better. It helped him process his first real exposure to mortality, to insecurity, to the fear of not being loved. It allowed him to go on and become the adult he is, where he's a writer and a father. And next week, we'll be looking at how easily Rob Reiner can switch between tones and genres as we watch a movie that is simultaneously a romance, an adventure, a fantasy, a comedy, and a meta-narrative. The Princess Bride was only a mild success at the box office when it was released in 1987. At the time, Reiner was disappointed, but he was told by one of the studio heads, Barry Diller, that he just needed to give the movie time to find its audience. Today, The Princess Bride is considered an all-time classic. It's also considered one of the most quotable movies of all time.
Inconceivable!
As you wish.
Knowledge.
There's very few movies that are able to capture the same spirit as The Princess Bride, which perfectly balances a clever self-awareness that allows the audience to access the story, but never compromises itself when it comes to being earnest. The movie somehow both acknowledges that fairy tales are kind of funny, but then also fully embraces itself as a fairy tale. So here's some questions to keep in mind while you watch. Out of all the combined elements in this movie, what appeals to you the most? Is it the comedy? Is it the romance? Is it the adventure? If you watched it with someone else, did they feel the same way? In the framing scenes where the grandpa is telling the story to the grandson, which character do you identify with? Why? Pay attention to how humor is used throughout the movie. In addition to simply making the audience laugh, do you notice any other ways in which it functions in the story? So let's chat about Stand By Me in the comments, and I'll see you back here on Sunday to discuss The Princess Bride. If you want to stay in the know about Movie Club, you know where to go.